Hey everybody, in this video we're going to talk about your Celtic Suncatcher that came in your box of making and how to put it together, a little bit about how to decorate it, all the things you need to know for putting together this lovely Suncatcher that you're going to be able to hang in your window, wherever you want to put it. You'll notice that it's got a clear acrylic piece in it, and we've included Suncatcher dies in your box. So you're going to get to use those Suncatcher dies to actually decorate all of this acrylic. So you get pretty colored, almost stained glass out of this piece. So let's start with talking about what the pieces are that came in your box. At the very bottom of your box, you've got 3 pieces of wood and a piece of acrylic. This piece of acrylic is covered with paper. One side of it is solid, the other side of it is all cut out. You've also got a ring that will go around the piece of acrylic. And then these 2 pieces of wood. One of the pieces of wood says Steamy Tech on it. The other piece of wood does not say Steamy Tech on it. That's meant to be your front, and you can want to put them together to make sure you know which is the outside, and make sure you've got the outside of both of those pieces when you decorate them. Now, in terms of getting ready to build your project, what you want to do is sand and then decorate these 2 outside surfaces. Again, making sure you've got the 2 outside surfaces. But the challenging and interesting thing about decorating for this box is actually that you're going to get to decorate this acrylic ring with the stained glass paints that came in your box. So, your piece of acrylic, a couple of things to note. It's got 2 holes in it. Those 2 holes will line up to 2 of the holes in your piece. As you decorate the wood here, you want to think about lining those up so that the colors match appropriately, so you end up with matching colors. If you're going to do something different for colors all the way around and not put all of the colors exactly the same, because we're going to put a ribbon through these 2 top holes to get it to fit together right. Now, in terms of decorating this piece, what you'll do first is you're going to peel the paper all the way off, all the way around it. Now, I'm not going to do that to this piece, but you can start it and then peel the paper off on this side that has the cutouts on it. Try not to get fingerprints all over it. I'm not sure how the oils in the paints will respond to oils on your fingers, so I'd be careful and not get fingerprints on it as you can. You can then leave the paper on the other side of it while you're doing that decorating, just to keep it clean and free of fingerprints while you do it. So go away, decorate those pieces. Now, one more thing to keep in mind before you go away is you may decide that you want to put the back on it, put the acrylic here, and then paint it while it's already assembled. If you're going to do that, you can open your screw kit and take a couple of the screws. You probably don't have to put all of the screws through, but the screws want to go through from the front through the 8 holes in the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. To hold the whole piece together. So if you decide it's easier to put the Suncatcher stain on with the 2 pieces lined up, you can do that. You can watch the next part of the video that talks about how to assemble it before you do that painting on your Suncatcher. If you're going to do the paint while it's assembled, you might want to think about waiting to decorate, however you're going to decorate this top wood, until after you put the paint on, so you can cover up any accidental drips or spills on your wood. Right, go ahead, go decorate, have fun, and then come back and we'll see how this all goes together. Now that you've got your Suncatcher put together, all decorated, let's talk about what it takes to assemble it. And that's pretty straightforward. I'm going to open my little package of hardware. It will have in it a ribbon. Mine is a pretty wide one. Yours should be narrower than that. It will also have in it 8 1/2-inch screws and 8 1/2-inch nuts. So let me make sure first that I've got my hardware correct. 4, 4, and 8 nuts. And let's talk about how this assembly is going to go. If you haven't already, now's the time to flip over your big piece of acrylic and to pull off the back. You want to be really careful when you do the back that you don't get fingerprints all over it. And you want to be careful with the front of it at this point that you haven't got dust in your paint. Make sure your paint is nice and dry before you do this step in the process, or you're going to be squishing paint everywhere. So I've got a clear piece, but yours I'm sure is decorated in a beautiful way. And you're going to start with the back. Now this one, the cuts on it were actually a little bit backwards, but it won't hurt anything here. So I've got my Steamy Tech on the bottom. So we definitely want that to be the bottom bracket here. And on my piece of acrylic, I have 2 holes through. So those 2 holes are going to go on the top. And if I line it up, it will line up perfectly that way against your back. So you'll start with your back. The painted side should go down. And you want to make sure those 2 holes are on the top, opposite the Steamy Tech on the bottom of the back. Now, one option is to glue this together if you want to. You're not required to at all. You've got enough screws in here. It should hold it together fairly well. But if you want to put a little glue on it, you can put a bead of glue around the outside of this ring and drop it in. Be really careful. Super glue and acrylic do not mix well, and you get swipes of grossness on your piece if you do that. But being very careful, go ahead and do that. Put the 2 pieces together lined up like that. And now we're ready for the top. Now, depending on what you've done in terms of decoration, you may not need to do much at all to get that lined up the way you want, or you can spin it, but just remember that that's going to be the top when you put it together. I'm going to recommend starting with putting 2 of the 8 screws through. So put those 2 screws through, flip it over. Put a drop of super glue on the screws and then put those nuts on. Just because once you've done that and got those first 2 screws in, you'll know everything is lined up nicely for the rest of it. And it will just make it easier to get the rest of the screws in without feeling like you're fighting with them. I'm just going to start these 2. And once I get them started, then I can pick it back up and grab my screwdriver and tighten them in. Hold on to the nut. Make sure you do that fast enough that it hasn't dried completely. And then once you've got those 2 in, then you're in really good shape to go ahead and continue and put in the rest of the screws and glue your piece together. So you do that. And unlike some of our projects, since these aren't gears, we can actually tighten these screws down nice and tight to hold the whole piece together. And I'm just easily one at a time putting these together, being careful not to touch the acrylic so I don't get super glue on the acrylic.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. Take a look at the help section in your Alexa app.
That would be my Alexa. For some reason, she's having trouble connecting to the internet. Now, if you end up with sawdust or dust or anything on your piece, there's several things you can do to blow it off. Canned air is really your best bet for kind of getting rid of dust on things in general. You can use a paper towel carefully. On the side that doesn't have the paints in it, you could even use a damp cloth, dusting cloth if you wanted to, although then you got to be careful you're not getting into any of your colors of your decorating on the front. So get rid of the dust, make sure you don't have any dust sitting there annoying you as you put your piece together. And I'm going to go through one more time and tighten all of these screws in. Make sure they're all set nicely. And last but not least, I'm ready to put in my ribbon. And what I'm doing with this one is just folding it in half and sliding it through these two loops. And I'm going to go front to back, but I'm going to actually hang it in such a way that it's dangling down on both sides. So we'll do that. I'm going to tie a knot up here. And then I can hang it happily from the top. Go put it on my door and make a pretty decoration on my door. And there you have it. A Celtic Suncatcher of your very own. Thanks.